welcome to the Kiwi Adviser Network Podcast. Today we're joined by Hamish Patel from Mortgages Online. Mortgages Online is a mortgage and insurance advisory business. It's been going for over 10 years and very stoked to have you here, Hamish. Welcome.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
And I'm curious to know because, you know, on your website, it says you've been in the industry for 10 plus years, but how did you actually get into advising?
Well, when I got into the advice world, it was very easy. You just needed a fax machine and a heartbeat, and you're an advisor. So it was. I remember doing it out almost like my first office was like a cupboard in our flat in Greyland. So, you know, it was easy to get in, but there was competition was rife. You know, so the industry was like the Wild West back then. So yeah, I got into it because I'd always been I've been in the bank for a long time, and then I didn't know anything else.
And what was the catalyst for like making that transition from the bank to starting your own business?
One of the things that was appealing was more options for clients, you know, because often in the bank, and I think a lot of people start off that way. They're like, hey, I could actually do more. I could go to this bank or that bank for this client, you know.
And when you, like, let's say somebody was approaching you and they were talking about making that transition, like, what advice would you have for them?
Oh, man. I mean, I think
it's a bit different now.
It is very different now. I mean, if you told me the way it was now back then, I probably wouldn't have made the move, to be honest, because there is a lot of moving parts now. But it is rewarding, the same as a banker would say that, you know, it's rewarding in that when you help people grow financially, and then you look back and there is a real satisfaction in being able to help people in that journey, you know. But yeah, if you're coming into this industry, know that you're going to have to probably up the game quite a bit. There's going to be a lot more, obviously, stuff involved that you're going to have to do. You're going to have a lot more flexibility though, you know, because you're going to be able to go to multiple banks, multiple providers. But yeah, it is something that needs a bit of work.
And I know you started off, you went bank, started business, but like, let's say somebody's in that same position now, they want to get into the industry and do more products. Like, what would be like the pros and cons versus starting your own business versus joining an existing one?
So I think now, I mean, the good thing is, although there are a lot more options to get mentorship and get in off-the-shelf products now. We didn't have beautiful things like Trail, you know, when I started. It was basically like, I read Act by Sage, I think, or something. It was, we used CRMs and things, which was just not meant for the mortgage industry. So if you're going to go on your own, grab the best tools, you know, because it's just going to make life way easier.
Less of a standing start.
Yeah, and look at your options. There's no harm in starting under a banner, you know, going in with someone. I've seen some guys start up with, you know, in partnership with like two advisors or something to try to, and I think that's probably more important now, where you try and distribute the compliance costs and admin costs, try and lighten the load of that, you know, because that is a cost now.
Because there's so much that needs doing, you know, like think about your day-to-day tasks. Like how much of that is actually spent advising versus marketing processes? There
is a lot of bureaucracy now, but the beauty of that is that you're not competing with the taxi driver that's doing mortgage broking part-time. Like when I started, I'd meet a real estate agent who was also a mortgage advisor, who was also an insurance advisor. You know, that doesn't happen anymore. So the industry, we've raised the bar, but I think the good thing is it's a profession now, you know. So going in there's so many options for starting with another brand. So yeah, I mean, you play it how you like. If you've got multiple skills, if you like to run a business, you want to wear multiple hats, then you know you've got off the shelf stuff like Trail where you can do that, and you've got help.
And what's your favorite part of running the business or having your own business?
I think for me, like I like to have more control over the processes, you know, and being able to have more control over the delivery of how we deliver the solution to the clients. It's fun for me to work on those things, but it's still the core that everybody, I think, joins the industry for is just getting people from here to here and watching them and their family in that journey and just going, your kids will be running around thinking, why have we got multiple houses, or why are we so much better? And it's like, they'll come to you and say, hey, what's
we got Hamish.
We got dad will say, go and see Hamish, and they'll probably turn up and say, hey, that's great, but what's the cashbacks?
So how do you
What's the interest rate?
There must be something. So what is that journey for a client? Like, let's say somebody comes to you, like, how do you get them from that like A to B, or actually it's more like an A to H?
I think the key thing is a lot of clients want to know what their options are. They need visibility. It's very difficult these days to go, okay, I want to go from here to here. How do I get there? And there's so many advisors out there, but really, as we understand as bankers, advisors, leverage is the key. You've got all these great plans. Great, you've got this great financial plan that's been given to you by other advisors or whatever. But if you can't get the leverage, if you can't get the debt to make that happen, there's no, that might not be the right thing, or it just might be a dream. So it comes down to visibility. Like, often we'll sit down with clients and go, right, this is the steps. This is, maybe it's this house at the moment, maybe it's a unit or an apartment or whatever it is, but as an investment or your first home could be this kind of price range. And then it's just making them aware that you've got to be patient. Houses are a long game, as much as you can have short gains, but really it's always been a long-term thing. And you can be stuck in a position for many years if you, and so you've got to make sure your cards,
same with like KiwiSaver.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who checks it at least once a week.
Yeah, it's funny how people do that. I guess if you're going to use it as a deposit, it's more important to get some advice and be in the right risk profile. But yeah, it's funny how people check that when it's not for their home. It's like you can't access it for a long time.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, so let's say a lot of advisors have leads that come through that maybe aren't quite at that position where they can even consider buying a property. Like, what advice would you have for those advisors to keep nurturing them and help growing them so that, one day they become a really valuable client?
Yeah, so this is where we've got to be realistic as an industry, because let's face it, the amount of regulation we've got, certain parts of the market will not, in the future, if it keeps on like this, they might not be able to afford advice, realistically. I mean, what I try and do is I try and make people aware as quickly as possible what the steps are to get to a position to be able to buy. And then to keep in touch with them and give them information, delivering it at a low cost, because more and more we have to learn how to deliver information to people at a lower cost, because the old days of holding someone's hand right through it, it's changed. For some clients, we just can't afford to do it now.
It can be too time consuming.
Yeah.
How do you scale that then? So if you've got people coming through and you're trying to grow them, like, how do you do that so it's not you spending all this time holding their hand, but they're still getting value from you, and they might be in a position one day to then become a client? Yeah,
so I think, look, it depends what you want to do. If you enjoy that kind of market, and I think that leads to the thing I wanted to actually talk about is know your target market, If that's your target market, then get a toolkit. And for me, the toolkits is often delivered with video clips and articles. It could be as simple as PDF, guides, but anything that's going to save you time repeating the same thing about how does an auction run and things like that. Can be good for SEO as well if you build out those types of blogs. I see it all the time. If you search how to do X, there's always a company that's trying to sell you whatever product it is, saying like, here's how you do it. Exactly. And look, there's so much, it's so vast. There's so many questions that people have. But what you need to probably look at is, first of all, and I wish I did this very early on, is you need to decide what your target market is, early on. You've got to get a blank piece of paper. You've got to draw up, what does your target market look like? Think about their skill set, the education level, maybe the earnings, even, who do you like dealing with? maybe even sports or whatever. Create a profile of who your target market is. And that target market is not just who you think you can deliver to, but also who's profitable and who you like working with. And get that down packed, because from there on in, everything becomes a lot simpler, because everything in your business should be focused on that person or those people. Right?
How do I attract them?
How do you attract them? If you're building a toolkit, is it adding value to that person on that page? If you're looking at advertising, you get a call from the local community paper or something for ad space. Is that person going to be reading it? No. Why are you putting an ad up? So get that down packed, and then everything else becomes simpler. I'm not saying you turn away clients, because often when you start, you don't want to just turn away clients. Obviously, we do home loans for all sorts of clients still, but everything is streamlined towards a particular target. Right. So it's important to do that, because we don't have the big muscle in terms of ad spend and things like that some of our competitors do in the industry. So we've got to make sure that your resources are spent wisely.
So if, because I think there's quite a few businesses that be in a similar position where they don't have the resources to do big marketing campaigns and radio ads.
Yeah.
What are some like low cost marketing ideas that maybe some smaller enterprises can do?
Well, the beauty of some of the social platforms now is that you can actually build an audience and you can put things out at a fairly low cost. The key thing is you can target it,
like Facebook, that type of thing.
Yeah. You can target it to who you want to target it to. So your spend is actually going to, your target market. So these things like Facebook and LinkedIn, obviously like YouTube. Then there are Google AdWords, So there's those things, and some of those things you can actually have some good targeting. Look for things where it is targeted. But I mean, it could be, if your target market is the local community, you could be advertising in the local community newsletter,
Oh, like Facebook groups. There's like every single community has a Facebook group. Like I'm based in East Auckland. We've got the East Auckland
Facebook
Grapevine.
Group, yeah.
Join them.
Well, when I started, actually, for quite a few years, I ended up on the Co-op taxi newsletter, and
really?
That used to give me a lot of business. And I it was just a small ad, and somebody forgot about who'd put it in, and they just kept running it for years. And I was like, I think I rang one year up to try and say, hey, who do I pay, for this? And they kind of. They were like, what that ad? But it used to give me business, and I started to learn a lot about taxi drivers and self-employment and how to read profit and loss and books and stuff. So, but yeah, there's so many ways, but it starts off with that target.
And for things like social media ads, is that something you'd like tackle yourself, or would you engage a third party to help you with it?
That's a very good question, because I've done both, and I actually think there is a lot of value in learning to do it yourself. But using another company can be handy as well. Don't expect them to treat you. When you've got a small amount of budget, that you can't expect them to become experts in your target market and deliver a real innovative way of getting it cheaper or anything. You know what I mean? You kind of have to do that on your own, really, when you're starting out. I think you get better value.
And so let's say you've got you've run a great campaign, and the client's call to action is to go to your website. Your website naturally is very good because your business is called Mortgages Online, and flicking through it, I think it's a great example of how a mortgage advisor should set up their website. It's got a lot of value adds, clear call to action. You can book online meetings in person.
Yep.
You've got an application form. So you hit all the key areas. How did that website design come about? Did you, again, was it a third party or?
Yeah, so I actually ended up doing that one with Spec Media. The guy there is amazing, and very cost effective, actually. To be honest, for years I ran it mine's probably not a great example as much as it seems, because I probably spend too much time on the content, right? in fact, Spec Media, when they looked at my site, the first one, which had a lot of those clips and a lot of those articles, basically said, well, what's the point? What is actually, where's the value? I mean, at one point it was like, do your clients actually even understand what you do? You know, so getting a professional to do it, and sometimes it's not a very big cost. It's just getting to the point to your target market. What is it? What is it you're offering them? Where's the value? Get a professional involved with that. I think you can't. Yeah, it's good to spend money on that target market and getting the right branding and feel
And sometimes it can be just having somebody who's not in the industry to go through something that we might take for granted because we know it. But for instance, my partner, when we were getting our mortgage, I got her to go through the application. And it's funny just like seeing her ticker. She's like, do I know? What does this mean? I'm like, come on.
Well, that's where your software's been great, actually, because it is very focused. It's brutally focused on the consumer.
Needs to be.
And that's what we all have to do, really. You know, we all have to be brutally focused on that target market, and it's different for everyone.
If it's tough for your clients, they're just going to go, stuff this.
Exactly. And the good thing is that some of the bigger players, not necessarily mortgage brokers, they're sometimes not the best at picking up calls and returning people, you know. So there's a lot of it. There is a lot of advantages when you're starting out and you've got that real hands-on approach.
I was very impressed with your Google reviews. Now, anybody can jump and have a look at this now, but he's got over 100 5-star reviews, which, you know, I think if you get into those numbers, surely there's got to be one person in there that's like, I tried to contact them, we got nothing back, but they're all really positive.
Yeah.
And it's it can be really hard as a mortgage advisor. Everyone wants to call you. The longer you've been in the game, the busier you are, it's hard to pick up those calls. Like, how do you keep on top of each of your clients? So, look, there is a cost to that, you know. So we actually do spoil our clients somewhat. So, you know, my business is they're probably more profitable businesses running out of a garage, to be honest. So we do we've got a team and we've got a lot of support for clients. And we are really focused on the service that we deliver, you know, and that does cost more, I would say. And just coming back to the online content you were talking about before. Yep. You see you've got too much. Maybe your website designer said, you know, what's the point? But what kind of content is that? There's too much content in there. There's articles in there. There's probably more than 1,000 articles in there. To be honest, I think 800 of them no one will ever read again. But I just keep pumping it out. I'm just a serial. Where do you post it? Where are your clients? Do you have a group or a Facebook page, LinkedIn page? I just shove it out I shove it out through Facebook. I shove it out through LinkedIn and stuff. But I also really, the key thing is a lot of that content is for the existing base. So I've got a fairly large newsletter list now. Okay, great. So I regurgitate the same content for multiple uses. But I have to because I enjoy. It's more that I enjoy it. It's kind of a selfish thing, actually. It's not. I don't think it's profitable creating that much content. Sometimes the most effective way of marketing is just staying in your client's mind. So, like, there might be somebody that's on your newsletter that perhaps hasn't thought about buying a house for a year or so, and then suddenly they get that itch, and they're like, I need a loan. Hamish, that's right, because he sends me videos. Like I started off by writing a lot of content. Actually, my content, if you look on my website, some of the older articles, it was much better quality when I started. I used to spend hours looking at stats from the RBNZ and REINZ and writing these wonderful articles. But then I realized nobody was really reading them. You know, like nobody, that the time spent and the actual, what I was getting out of it probably wasn't a good ratio. We always look at the 80-20 rule. Yeah. So just spending 80% of the way will get you there most of the time. And it's just those extra incremental changes that, even though it will make it a little bit better, you've already kind of like got the nuts and bolts and the core is all there. Yeah. So now I try and focus more on what are my clients asking this month, and just stick to that and try and just have it really short, you know, a much shorter article or content. And it just does enough to go answer that question, you know. One thing I really like about you, Hamish, is that you're one of those guys that's trying to grow the advice industry. I'm not sure if people would know this, but Hamish actually organises like a monthly catch up for advisors. You can just go to a coffee shop and just shoot the breeze,
Because I think what we need to, we all need to, support our peers, because the industry, the better the industry is, the more sustainable it is in the long run. Our consumers, if they have in their mind that, hey, look, going to a mortgage advisor is great value and they do a great job, any mortgage advisor or most of them, then we're going to stick around. So there's a lot of things happening in the background, a lot of legislation and a lot of politics that go on around delivering loans. But ultimately, the consumer who has a vote decides whether we're around and how sustainable the industry is. So I think that's why I do try and share a lot of information and keep the industry
keep moving forward.
Keep moving forward.
Well, that's what the legislation was for, really. It's to gain trust. So the public trusts an advisor when they go to them. What do you think? Like, where do you see the next few years for our industry?
Well, what I see is that my gut feeling is there might be a little bit of watering down of some of that, or maybe more clarification, because right now, the way a lot of the legislation is, it'll come down to how everybody does the delivery and how they interpret the legislation, and that will set the bar. So now, a lot of that stuff, if you really look at it, you could interpret it this way or that way.
There's no black and whites.
There's no black and whites. And one way of interpreting it, it's actually too expensive, I would dare say. And I think the good thing is, though, it has made us more of a profession. So it's gonna, if it lifts it is lifting the bar already, I think, a lot of it. And I think looking forward, I think our industry it's looking more and more like it's an amazing industry. It's going to be an amazing industry. It's a lot more sustainable looking now than it was a decade ago. It feels like it's being taken seriously, and we've got a journey ahead now to try and basically deliver what the legislation wants in a cost-effective way, and that's a balance. And if we can do that, if we get that balance right, then we're going to be. It's going to be very hard to shake us down.
Well, I've seen the numbers. Apparently, mortgage advisors, the percentage has gone right up. It was previously around, I think, like 35-40% in terms of loans that were put through a mortgage advisor. I remember seeing one recently. It was around like 50-odd%.
I think one of the banks had that kind of stat lately. Yeah.
And in Australia, I saw an article. I did the classic thing where I just saw the headline, didn't actually click into it, but I saw that they were up around 70% in Australia for deals through. How can
maybe
we get
a particular lender or something?
Yeah,
the industry. That's the thing. The industry over there is pretty strong, and I think over there, some of the political side have realised that there's actually a really mortgage advisors are actually quite loved by the consumers, by people. More so, I reckon, than the banks get a bad rep over time. Well, they have to, because they touch so many people. So we kind of So I think with the legislation and a lot of the changes that's happening, it feels like we're really becoming it's going to be good, I reckon, if we can do it right. And tools, players like yourself, there's FSG, Financial Advice New Zealand. There's a lot of submitters and people that have also kind of shaped the industry, provided the tools for us to operate. And it means that the more stakeholders there are in our industry, the safer it is and more sustainable it is, I reckon.
It's good to have competition.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think, and it's the same, like what you're saying.
On a level playing field,
Yeah, totally.
If everyone plays by the same rules, it's great to have competition.
Absolutely. And it's the same for mortgage advisors too. If everybody's growing at the same rate, people are going to have that extra trust in the industry. They'll know, rather than, advisors are like middlemen, they'll take their commission. Seeing the value and saying like, oh, no, Hamish actually helped me get into my first home. That was like I never thought I'd be able to achieve. That kind of stuff, people hold on to that. Special.
Yeah. We're lucky to be in this industry in that regard,
Are there any particular stories that spring to mind? Maybe people that you helped on that journey that stick out?
Oh man, there's so many. There are so many. Because I've been in it for more than a decade, I have got a lot of families where the kids are coming up through now, and the parents and they're using equity from properties that we help with the parents with. Because I've been around for 10 years, but I was banker before that, right?
So what's the end goal for you? Like what does your success look like?
I've often thought about that. I don't think to me, the end goal is just to keep providing a great service and keep growing a good team, I think, we don't have to be massive, but I just want to be sustainable, good, and still have the quality.
Great. How big's the team at the moment?
There's only, actually, we probably look a lot bigger than we are. There's only 2 advisors, mortgage advisors, 1 insurance advisor now. So Dev is the other mortgage advisor that joined me, and Corinne, the insurance advisor. And then we've got a support team. So the support team is about 4 or 5 other people, but I think we definitely pack a good punch for our size, I reckon.
Like most businesses in this industry, I think 50% are in that 1 to 3 man bracket. When you start getting up to, like 8, 10 advisors, you are like the minority in terms of size. So it might feel like you're small and you're packing a punch, but you actually like the resources you've got now because you've spent that time and energy are actually pretty considerable.
Yeah, I think, in the long run though, I think that's the beautiful thing about our industry is that there is now, with trail income especially, there is value add, so you can look back and go, actually, this is worth something. And now with regulation, I think the better your business delivers it, and the processes you put in place, there's a value to that as well, I reckon, in the long run.
So you've got an insurance advisor as well. Do you do KiwiSaver or investments or anything?
We don't do it ourselves, but we
refer it on.
We refer it on.
Would you look to do that and keep that like trail?
I don't know. Like I know the insurance industry, I know the mortgage industry. I don't know the investment industry well enough.
Okay.
I think we can deliver good solutions for insurance, and we've just started back into insurance actually, because we used to outsource that for a long time. But no, I wouldn't. I don't think I'll go knee deep in
not for a while.
There's enough kind of moving parts now.
So what would be like the pros and cons of bringing in an insurance advisor rather than going
to outsourcing?
Yeah.
For me, it was just natural because there's 2 mortgage advisors. I think the ratio is like, hey, we could actually just, keep it in house. But I guess it's what you want to do. I mean, I was in 2 ways because I could have just added maybe another mortgage advisor and kept going down that road and be, it is with the regulation and things like that. It is a lot more to think about to bring someone in. But I think if you've got the volume, a lot of things we do in the mortgage world and now the insurance world, a lot of around the legislation, a lot of it is similar. So. But we'll find out how similar in the coming years, I think. But
how do you decide, the business is going well, how do you decide to bring in another advisor or another person to come and do support work? Like, how does that decision-making process work?
Yeah, that's a good question because I think it comes down to what you enjoy doing and what you want to do. Are you bringing leads? And you got to think about or have you got too many leads and you need processing? Like you need to look at what you want the advisor for, For me, it was like me and some support team, and it got to the point where it was like I became the bottleneck because I couldn't advise enough people. So
you want to be doing the most high value stuff you can. So giving the advice, helping the client, and then some of that administrative stuff, bring somebody in.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of advisors, that first step of getting that first support staff can be scary, but I reckon if you've got the volume and you can handle more work, it's where you start turning away the odd deal because you're like, oh, I just can't handle the workload. Maybe that's the time to really start thinking, hey, maybe you need admin support. If you've got the admin support and you're still getting a bunch of leads, think about, then obviously if you're the bottleneck, then you need another advisor.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way of looking at it.
Sometimes, there's different business models. Some business models are working off, like, bring advisors in, but let them bring the business in as well. Which can work, but I think the margins are a bit thinner, and you've got to be a bit more careful on who you bring in.
Especially now.
Like that, you know?
And it's a longer term payoff maybe because you've got to train them up. Might be like a year or two before you start seeing them bringing profit into the business.
Yes, correct. And I think you've got to be a bit wary that they can also walk at any time if they're able to generate their own business. You've got to think about where's the value add
from you,
from you, to the advisor.
So what is your main value add?
For me, the way I work is we generate the leads. So I still enjoy doing the marketing side and building that up. So, and the way I've got structured with the support team and everything, I also enjoy building the processes. So I think how we deliver to the end consumer is potentially different to a lot of advisors. And that's, and I want to keep that, because that's why we've got our license.
And how do you bring in new people? Like, where do you look to hire? Do you put seek ads out or what?
Yeah, look, I've used a recruiter in the last couple of times, although
can be expensive.
It is expensive, and I think, but it's just if you're busy. Yeah, it depends, right? Because it's hard to go through 100 CVs and people applying for jobs they're not suited for. You've got to sift through all that.
Do you look for people who have previous experience in the industry, or do you prefer to train them up and get them, following your best practice?
I kind of go with my gut, actually. I kind of go with the right attitude. I think there's a lot of things you can add and build. Like I've got one, our support member for the Refix, Mila. She was not initially from the industry at all. She's, but she had the right attitude, and I think attitude goes a long way in this industry. Like you need to be really client focused, and you need to. For me, anyway, I think that's the other bits you can add on, I reckon. But if you're not, if you don't have that work ethic and the right attitude, then
probably not going to cut it.
It's going to be pretty hard, because there's a lot of things changing as well all the time, right, in our industry.
How do you manage the team with all those constant changes?
We are lucky. I mean, everyone's got the right attitude, so it's a bit easier. Everyone's quite keen to get on with it and do stuff the right way. My only job is to make sure they don't read the newspapers too much and get, because sometimes you can get scared with things changing all the time. But I mean, I guess we do weekly catch-ups. We do, we do lunches together. We have lunch together every Friday. So we just have kind of keep a really nice vibe and create a culture where everybody enjoys being with each other, And I think if you enjoy coming to work, then your job's half done
working with friends, just, I always said I'd happily be a garbage man if I got to work with my best mates.
Yeah.
I used to work for a company in the UK, and it was like really tough. Like I felt like constantly all day, and it stems from the management. If somebody's quite tough to work for or with, it seems to be systemic, and everybody starts like just being aggressive. It's just not like a nice environment to be a part of. Where do you go for your lunches? Like, how do you keep the team interested? I feel like doing now, especially in a COVID world, maybe people are like a bit nervous or tentative to do a lot of like larger gatherings.
Well, we just do anything, right? We'll do takeaways and stuff as well. Lately, we've been. What did we do last time? I think we went to the local cafe. Yeah.
I was going to ask before, how much is a recruiter to go through them? Do they charge a percentage of the pay, or like, do you know roughly?
So I think I used, I'm going to plug probably Adam from, I think it's Frank Knight. So I was lucky in that we had a kind of a fixed fee, low cost fee for mortgage advisor industry.
Okay.
So that was kind of nice. How much does it cost?
Just for somebody?
I think generally, what is it? Is it 2 or 3 times their monthly package, I think, or like 20% of their annual salary or something, I think.
Something good
like
yardstick.
20-30%. But
Okay.
yeah, it's not cheap. But then a lot of recruiters will have this kind of money back guarantee where if you're not happy with them in 3 months and you need to redo it, they'll do it for free, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah, so a lot of them have that.
You know what? A good hiring tactic that I know Chuck, who started Trail, used, because that's how he found me. Just go through your Facebook friend list.
Yeah.
From start to finish, and chances are there'll be somebody in there that might be a good fit, or they'll know somebody that might be a good fit.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because Chuck always said that he was going through all of his friends, and my name's Warwick, obviously, so he got down to the W's and was like, oh,
there's only one W.
Yeah. Was it? Come on. So yeah, I mean, it could be a good cost-effective way of doing it. You know, it's easy if you know people already. You know, they're a good culture fit. Just people who don't have the resources.
That's right. Yeah, because personality goes a long way in this industry.
Yeah, it's crucial. And so, what do you reckon next? Would it be like somebody in the support team? Would you like to look at another advisor? Like, what's your gut telling you?
Well, right now I think with times the way they are, we just kind of got to hang in there for a bit. If things go well, I guess the next thing would be probably another mortgage advisor, I guess. Maybe another support. A kind of a lender, maybe.
It's hard, eh? You're always weighing it up. Okay, and if it's
there's no wrong or right way, because some mortgage advisors like to do most of it anyway. But yeah, I think we've reached capacity with the support team, so we might need to look at there.
Yeah.
The other great way of getting people, one of the support team members I've got now was actually through co-op at AUT. So you can actually you can give new graduates a chance to do their work experience with you, and that's a great way of finding out their attitude when you're not really getting paid much to work. Because that's how co-op works, but you kind of cover some of their expenses and stuff. But
you're great.
It's a very short period of time, but it's a great way of kind of feeling them out.
Just dipping the toe in the water, seeing if the mortgage industry is for them.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you sign up to that type of thing?
I think just look up AUT co-op.
All right. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
And I think that was like more or less like a lot of the questions I have for you today. I really enjoyed the part, like the decision, support staff or new mortgage advisor. It's something that a lot of people weigh up. So it was really good hearing your insight on that.
Sometimes you just got to just flip a coin. There's no wrong or right. Sometimes you just got to do it. You just got to move forward.
It's something I do as well. If there's like 2 things I'm tossing up, I'll flip a coin. And if I don't like the result, it means that I wanted the other one anyway. So let's go ahead with it. Thanks so much for joining us today, Hamish. It was a real pleasure to see you, and looking forward to catching up next time.
Yeah.
And any questions at all, make sure you flick them through to warwick@gettrail.com if you've got a question you want to ask one of our advisors in the future episodes. Look forward to seeing you next time.